When you're young, everything aligns towards you traveling as much as possible. For instance, you have less responsibility and at the same time you have more free time. That means you can just disappear for 2 weeks and no one is really going to care or notice. Whereas if you're 30 and you have a job, a family, a house, and pets, you can't just disappear for 2 weeks and pretend that everything's going to be all right. No, people need you. And so in order to travel when you're 30, you have to plan it months and months in advance. Whereas if you're young, you can just travel essentially whenever you feel like it and whenever you haven't run out of money. When you're young, you also have fewer expectations. When it comes to travel and you're 20, let's say, it's okay to sleep in the same room as 6 other guys. But if you're 50, then you kind of have the desire to stay in a 5-star hotel and to book the flights that are 10 times more expensive so that you fly at the time that you want to fly. Right? And not only that, but if you spend 500 euros on a trip when you're 20, it's kind of the exact same amount of pleasure as the 50-year-old who spends 100,000 to buy a new car. But the difference between 500 and 100,000 is, well, 100,000 is significantly more. Not only a little bit more, but significantly more, magnitudes more. Whereas 500 euros on a trip, that's basically nothing from the 50-year-old's perspective. So you have not only less responsibility and more time, but you also have lower expectations. What's also the case is that your body is simply much more capable. When you're young, you can wake up in the middle of the night, then fly, then explore the city all day, then go to a party, then sleep for 2 hours, and then explore the city again, and then fly again to the next city. But when you're 50 or so, once again, that's not really possible because your body is just older and thus less flexible. And also, what's also interesting is that when you're young, your experiences simply matter a lot more than when you're old. This concept is called memory dividend. Memory dividend means that an experience made at 80 is worth less than an experience made at 20, because the experience you made at 20, you will remember your whole life and it will probably change you, or at least somewhat change you, or maybe inspire you here and there. Whereas the experience you made at 80 probably no longer does, if you even remember it at all, right? So when you're young, everything aligns towards you traveling. You have less responsibility, more time, fewer expectations. You have a more capable body, and the experiences will be remembered your whole life. So in other words, spending 200 euros there, 600 euros there, 1,000 euros there on travel here and there, and you go to that place, you go to that place, you go to that place, is just going to be a very high return on investment. Because once you get older, all of these advantages disappear. The only advantage that you will then have is that you have more money, but even that is not guaranteed. And also, here's another fact. Right now, flights are basically free. You can fly 4,000 kilometers, sometimes for as little as 20 euros. That didn't exist in the past and probably won't exist in the future either. So right now, when you're young, that's the best time to travel that has ever existed throughout all humanity. A lot of people don't travel because they say, well, I don't have much money and I need to save it. But the thing is, saving money when you're young is kind of nonsensical. I'm, of course, no financial advisor, but if you don't have much money, then you putting away another 50 euros, which is going to be basically all your fun money, is nonsensical because your income is going to be significantly higher in the future once you get a job, once you get a career and stuff like that. So saving the very little that you have right now kind of doesn't make sense because in the future you will have more money. Like, saving makes sense if you make a lot of money so that you can then use it at a time where you have less money. But saving when you have less money for a time where you have more money is kind of backwards. You know what I mean? I'm of course not saying that you should spend recklessly, but I just noticed that saving when you have little money for a time where you have more money, that kind of doesn't make sense, right? Or maybe I'm crazy, but to me it just seems nonsensical. And so the money that you spent on travel, the 1,000 euros, the 2,000 euros, the 3,000 euros, is going to be absolutely worth it. Unless, of course, you really have absolutely no money, or if you're really grinding on your goals, if you're in that chapter, then of course, delay that travel time. But I would say that this excuse of I need to work usually is invalid, because you can also work in the airport or in the airplane. So you can also work on the go. And also you can work out basically anywhere, because almost every city has a calisthenics park where you can just go to and also socialize. So the excuse that you need to work or that you don't want to miss the gym just doesn't apply, because you can work everywhere and you can also work out everywhere. So this is just a non-issue. But here's why I mention that, because when you convince yourself that you really work and thus can't travel, what usually happens is that you don't actually work 24 hours a day, but you also still waste a lot of time here and there. But you tell yourself that you can't travel because you fear that you will miss the work from not working a few days. But this is once again also illogical, because if you take a few days off, then usually your productivity increases. Just we've also discussed, you can also work during the travel. And also, most likely, that's not the actual issue, but the actual issue is that you spent too much of your life on autopilot. So living in routines and living every day like the day before it. The problem with living life on autopilot is that a few years are going to pass and it's going to feel as if no time has passed, because if you live on autopilot, then the noise of this world starts to enter your life. Everything that you spend time doing gets filled by noise. And so you get significantly less done, but also fewer memories, less adventures, and just everything gets downhill when you live on autopilot. Of course, the advantage is that if you really need to grind for a few months or so, then being on autopilot is probably good. But outside of that, being on autopilot and living unconsciously, living as if you're dead, kind of does not make sense. So what I want you to do is, if you have some money left over, spend it on travel and you won't regret it. And so my name's Kirill. My goal is to inspire 10,000 good decisions. And if this video helped you subscribe, and see you in the next one.